John, how are you tonight, buddy? What's happening?
I'm doing well, my friend. The countdown is on to Super Sunday, so the anticipation builds.
There you go. We quick plug there. We're gonna have some special stuff coming for
Yes.
Super Bowl Sunday as well.
Yep.
We're gonna put some fun stuff out there, but that's a little bit later.
Yes, indeed.
On this episode of the podcast, one of our all-time favorite discussions, which is a couple different all-in-one, but starts with our fathers.
Yeah.
We've done something kind of like this before. An ode to our fathers, kind of, but it goes a little bit further than that, talking about the generational difference, or just the generation in general. For those wondering, we are both sons of baby boomer generation. I'm fascinated by generations because there's so many things that I don't know if it's what's the right thing. Historians, psychiatrists, whatever it is, they're always right about an entire generation.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy. How could this many people be the same? But when you think about it, they're all born around the same time and they experience society at the same time. So
yes, they did.
They become, any generation is going to become, alike. Having said that,
I believe the term is monolithic. Go ahead.
Whoa.
A lot of our listeners are worried that you cannot keep up with my vocabulary. Check the tapes on that.
They can worry about that all they want. I'll figure it out. Monolithic. Okay.
Yeah, monolithic.
Anyway, moving on from that. I don't think that there's any generations anymore that stand for anything or are anything cool for our country. That's our main focus because we're Americans, so it's more about America. But just like society, it's more of like a society thing. Like generations going on now, they're known as like victims or products that are sold for advertising of big tech and everything. That's all they're known for. Whereas the baby boomers, I feel like, is the last generation that was like, okay, this generation changed America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it kind of stopped with them. It's like, now where do we go?
Yeah. The word boom or boomer is perfect because, I mean, if you look at a chart of births, and it happened right after World War II, everyone came home, just got knocked up after fighting a hellacious war for 5 years. I mean, it's a huge boom of population.
Right,
and anything that they did, move the needle so much. And any generation since Gen X, Gen Y, whatever they are, just doesn't have the numbers. The influence is not there. So the baby boomer influence, it's unreal.
Yeah. And I was doing, a little bit of, reading about it before we jumped on. It was something like 77 million baby boomers. And then it was like another 77 million of us. Like they equated, like they touched like half the country type of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't even comprehend it. But, when I think about baby boomers and a lot of this stuff, it cracks me up, right? My dad's 75 or about to be 75.
Yeah.
Your dad's
Same.
already same.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I also have another theory it's kind of like what I do with the seasons. I really don't follow the calendar of seasons. I have my own kind of tweaks to it. Okay. I think the baby boomer range is too long. Like this young end of the baby boomers born in 1965. Like I don't think you're a baby boomer. If you're not 60, the meat of it is 65 years old to 75 years old. 1945 to 1955 ish born in. Okay, is my true thick of baby boomers. So
agree.
You know what I mean? And we always laugh because we'll always text stuff about our dads. And one of my favorite things about baby boomers that I always like to talk about is roads. And you know this about my dad. My dad is a dentist who has spent his entire life in the state of Ohio, much less that Northeast Ohio, other than a small stint for just some medical school and some different things like that. But he can tell me right now, if I am in Dallas, Texas, what road I need to take to get to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Like, and I mean like that. It's so fascinating to me what a difference of a thing with our generation. We just get in a car, and we had a little bit of the MapQuest days and kind of learn a little bit, but
terrible. Yeah.
You don't know, there's no way you could find your way anywhere right now.
No.
Even though you, when you first started driving in early college, you did have to depend on normal maps. You still have no idea what roads are in the state of Florida or what you take to go, which route would be better than this or that. And it's fascinating to me how much they love roads and talk about roads. Well, that's a generational thing.
I-65, I-74. I mean, they like saying I. The big I.
Yeah.
Taking I-40 across Oklahoma City.
They're like the first version of the Californians. Well, you take the 5 to the 10, get off of Mahalo.
Well, there's a reason for that, because the interstate highway system was built for them during when they came of age and started driving.
Exactly. So and that's what I like to put my finger on. The differences of what everyone thinks we're experiencing some, but I feel like it's the same thing. It's just different forms of the internet or different things to ruin our society. When they were our age or a little bit younger, it was like, okay, World War II is over, Federal Highway Act, Eisenhower's like, let's build roads. So when they were like driving and all of a sudden they could be like, wow, we can go to that state and this state and get here and there. My dad still talks about when there's highways being built and the shoulders. We'll be driving on a road. He's like, oh, now see the shoulders over here. I'm like, well, how are you interested in the shoulder of this fucking road that you know that, what mile marker is that? He knows mile markers.
Oh, mile markers. Don't get me started on mile markers.
I'll call him and I'm driving to on family vacation. He's like, what mile mark are you at? I'm like, I don't know what fucking state I'm in. Seriously. I'm not sure if I went through West Virginia yet, and now I'm in PA and I'm crossing PA to, going over the Jersey Shore. I crossed like 4 states. Dad, I don't know what state I'm in. You're asking me what mile marker I'm at. And he's dead serious. He knows at all times what mile marker he's at.
134.6.
And he's like, oh yeah, there's a, Dunkin' Donuts off that exit. It's a great stop.
Love it.
Hit the Breezewood exit. That's where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, a couple things on that point. You bring up roads. And milepost 132.7. I'm about 30 miles out. Yeah. And like they have this distance thing. I couldn't tell you the difference between a mile and 5 miles or 10 miles. And actually, when I was on family vacation with you once, I made the mistake of not knowing which direction we were going in the presence of your dad.
Not good.
It was like we're driving along, like we're in New Jersey. I've never been there. We're on the Jersey Shore.
Doesn't matter. Maybe neither did he. He still knows it.
And I go, are we going are we going 34 west or east? Because John, the ocean's over here. We're going east or something like that. I'm like, I'm just a guest here, Dr. Roppel. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know.
Well, my dad, you're talking about the highway system. First of all, and the older they get, the worse it gets. His fidelity to the speed limit, he won't go a tenth of 1 mile per hour over the speed limit at this point.
Has your dad ever had a speeding ticket?
No, of course not. He doesn't have he's never been charged with a crime ever. spotless criminal record.
How is that possible?
And driving,
years.
Nothing drives my dad more crazy than going anywhere without your driver's license. I don't, in the summer, and I'm sure you're like this too, I don't really carry my driver's license. I put a debit card in my swimsuit,
yeah.
And I drive to the pool. I don't bring my driver's license. And he caught me doing that once. He lost it. He's like, well, you shouldn't be driving without a driver's license. I go, Dad, yeah, right. I made a reference to, I left my wallet, back at the house. Well, where's your driver's license? And I'm like, Dad, I drove from my house. It's like a 6-minute drive to the pool.
Yeah.
I mean,
what do you need it for?
Yeah, just this fidelity to the adherence to laws and regulations, and your dad's
you kind of got that from him. You're
a little bit of a ruly. I get it. I've had to loosen up. It's something you got to learn. I mean, that's what I was getting every day when I was growing up. My dad your dad is an insanely hard worker. Even I know that your dad worked every Saturday or had every 4th Saturday off. Heaven forbid he would take 2 days off on a weekend. Right. My dad's the same. He worked 38 years at General Motors. He went to work at a time that I don't even think exists on a clock. It's somewhere between 4 and 5.
When I wake up and when I get tired.
Yeah, it's like that. Even when you're going out and you're partying and stuff, that 4 o'clock hour, very strange. Obviously you party till 2, 2:33, 3:30, but man, you get to 4 o'clock. It's like, what is that? Is that the night? Is it the morning? Well, that's when he woke up and went to work. And then he would work from 5 to 7. He got the perfect attendance award at GM in Lordstown for like 10 straight years. Like perfect attendance, like never took a day off for a sick day. Like he would take vacation,
Yeah.
but he didn't call in sick for like 10
Right.
straight years. I mean, I call in, I didn't get perfect attendance for like, a month in my entire career.
At anything.
I mean,
school. I don't know if I
yeah,
went a month straight without making up some excuse why I had to miss a day of school.
He would put the medal, he would put the trophies on his desk at home. Like, Dad, did you actually like go to work every day? He's like, yeah, except for the 2-week shutdown for vacation.
Yeah.
I didn't miss a day. I'm like,
well, there's
goddamn insane.
Here's a statistic that I got for the podcast too, and I was reading up on some stuff. Generational characteristic difference right now. Think about what we're thinking of right now with our careers, and where normal 42 to 45-year-old men are thinking about their families. Something like only 11% of baby boomers expected to retire when they became of retirement age. We are trying to do anything we can to quit working by any means possible as soon as I can like have a some sort of algorithm that says you can have food, water, and enough to have fun until you die. I'm out. Like I'm done.
No question.
My dad.
Tell me when I get to Marco Island.
Still working. Yeah, my dad's still working. I'll tell you the road.
Yeah. Well, my dad he retired, but then he's just started another career. He was a teacher for the next 15 years. Of course, he won like Teacher of the Year 10 straight years. This is after he retired.
Right.
And the only thing that kicked them out of teaching was COVID, because they went to remote learning. And of course, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be in the classroom with 30 kids breathing on them. By golly, the hell with teaching on Zoom. So that's the only thing that took him out. So now he's, he's an organizer by trade. He was a logistics guy at GM, and now he's looking for something to logistics, and he doesn't have anything. So it's driving him crazy.
Yeah.
So.
There's so many characters, and it's kind of what concerns me. We always talk about stuff like, are we going to be better parents? I think to a degree we're better fathers because of the reasons we just said. They stayed at work till 7.
Yeah.
They were still in that old school from the greatest generation. Like women didn't go to work. Women stayed home and they cooked and cleaned and took care of the kids, and they came home and that was it. So I think a lot is to be said with our generation, that we're more involved in our kids' lives. We're better fathers. We learned some of their non-communication skills with children and what to do. They just, hey, I just help make the kids, and my job's done, except for like financially and some hard lessons here and there, teach him how to go get his nose bloody, but that's it. But those characteristic differences too. One thing that stands out to me is like military appreciation. Yeah. Baby boomers, because they're sons and daughters of the greatest generation, where their fathers and grandpa, everybody fought in the world wars at that point. Until them, everybody's parents and all their friends fought wars, real wars. Yeah. When the baby boomers got there, they had the respect and they taught it. Now, they had their own share, but it was more of a political war and a disaster of a war, and not as many of them statistically went compared to the world wars. But the respect for like military, like, is that being passed on with us? Now I still do. My dad, I have no one in my family that was military. They were doctor. I don't really have that kind of. I know you do, like some grandfathers and stuff that fought, and I'm sure I'm not the best at the family tree. I get made fun of it for all the time for stuff. So I'm sure there's somewhere in there where I've had some grandfathers fight in the wars, but not my immediates, right? They worked in the steel mill and were a doctor, and then my dad. But so he just bestowed that in us. I mean, 4th of July, every single year, we stood on the front porch, we put the flag out, and one of us had to read, the Star Spangled Banner, whatever it was, or read about Francis Scott Key. Where was that done? He drove the family out there to show us. Francis Scott Key wrote this on Pikes Peak. You had to know all that stuff. Is that type of thing being sent down to our children now? Because I'll tell you, definitely where it's not is the schools. No, the Pledge of Allegiance. That's the first thing you learned in elementary school. Right. Now I don't even. Do they teach it now? I don't even know. I haven't asked my kids lately. I don't want to get them in trouble. But to answer your question, offending people. Yeah, the military service, not to
brag about my family, but every Kirtley except my generation above me, my dad, my grandfather, great grand, they all
Yeah.
served, going back to the Revolutionary War. Now my dad, he was in whatever, the reserves. He was chilling at Xavier in the
Yeah.
defending Victory Parkway from the Viet Cong in case they invaded Mount Adams or something like that. I don't think it was very hard duty. Nevertheless, he did serve for 2 years.
Sure.
And yeah, it's always been, I've been ashamed, honestly. I'm like,
Yeah, I know
why
the feeling.
we look down. I mean, coming out of high school, because there was the expectation of college, I didn't even think about military service. And I'm like, why wouldn't I do that? First of all, I would have got everything paid for. I mean, you're serving the country. Yeah, the patriotism and the commitment to military service, I hope it comes back. It's certainly been lost. Now the military is fully employed, but there's not the widespread, broad-based commitment to patriotism and serving your country as there was in the baby boomers or the greatest generation.
Right. I mean, it was almost like a job of a baby boomer generation father, to make sure that you were patriotic above anything like that. It didn't matter what else was going on, but damn it, you're going to have respect for the flag. You're going to have respect for the country. You're going to have respect for this and that. There's no other bullshit. You respect any I remember my dad, I forget, I was young and I don't know what president was. And it was some assassinations came up, maybe it was around like the Clinton time, because I was still young enough to not really fully understand anything. And it was something my dad I knew the candidate who won wasn't his guy, because they hear it around the house.
Yeah.
I remember him like just giving a very hard lesson. Like, it doesn't matter who's elected. When they're elected, that's the end of it. And you're behind that person. And it's more about the position of our country. An assassination attempt on any of our presidents is disgusting, disturbing, and
absolutely,
and all those type of things. And now in this world, obviously, we see a lot of that stuff where people don't feel that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the respect for the office and that type of thing, now it's completely thrown out the window. It's become very personal. I mean, there was a reverence to the president and what he, always a guy, is representing. It's just an office, and that person is just there to represent the country. But as far as that generation, there are some downsides to it. They're so big that now that we have to take care of them and Medicare and Social Security, we got a big problem on our hands now. Not to get too political or too into the weeds, but everyone complains about how much the federal government spends, and it's $1 trillion in debt every month, and they'll blame all sorts of programs for that. Well, let me tell you, the only thing that puts us in a deficit position as a country is Medicare and Social Security paying for the baby boomers and their retirement and that's what the deficit is. And we look at our paychecks and see all that money going out. So I mean, it's become a kind of a headache, and they're living longer, and that's great. But yeah, we got some problems on that end because there's not enough of us to pay for their care. That's what's causing some problems.
Sounds like that was kind of came off like you want to get them out of here.
Get them out. How much longer are you going to stick around?
You just want these baby boomers done with. That's it.
Let's get some death panels going. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. But it's more of a critique of the employers who, gave them early retirement packages, and now they should have stayed working longer, I think was the answer. And now they don't have, jobs or careers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the boomers, and then we can talk about the music, the influence they made on pop culture.
Oh yeah.
The music.
I love the music aspect of it.
It's beyond, that might be their most lasting, indelible mark, is their mark on music, entertainment, TV, movies. Because I think what we're seeing now is just hot garbage.
Oh my God.
And we live, and you and I have similar music taste. We love those guys. Dylan, the Stones, go on and on.
It's so different. I don't listen to any. I listen to some music today, and there's many very good bands. All the bands that I listen to, I think I've had this conversation before with you. I kind of cut it into two ways, like people that like music are more interested in like the music aspect of it. And they're really in like, oh, you can hear that bass and that drum and oh my God, listen to that guitar play and that. And I do, and I love that, but I've always been more of the lyric side of it. I like a lot more what music's saying and how I interpret what they're saying. It might not be what they meant for it or what their life, but the way I listen to the song and I interpret what they're saying, because most of it's about love, hardship, all those things that you experience anyway, you can kind of turn into your own life. Um, and today's music, very few artists are saying anything worth a damn or to me or that
No.
or that moves me. It's just this, like you said, it's hot garbage. So yeah, I mean, you'll never have another generation like that did
No.
that. Now, when
Well,
we're talking,
think about. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say when you're talking about it, like our own fathers, I've always been surprised because my dad's he's 75 years old, this heart of like baby boomers. He hated the Beatles. Now, I've always been like, what? I don't understand. Well, he was Johnny Cash. He was these
Yeah.
hardened kind of oldies stuff. And when the Beatles came, it was like this. First of all, it was from the UK, so again, the patriotism
Right.
thing, playing sides
Right.
there a little bit. And also, like all these little 13-year-old girls were screaming about him. And in
Yeah.
1965, he's well on his way to being 20 years old in college. He's like this, this little boy band type of situation. And he, of course, is completely straight laced as a
Yeah.
dental school, straight laced. So that was associated with drugs, which what music wasn't. I'm like, Dad, Johnny Cash really fucking loved drugs, don't you? Have to have that conversation. But yeah, the music influence that can't ever be topped, ever in history.
Well, let's connect the music though with the military service and patriotism. It's very interesting because yes, greatest generation, baby boomers, greatest generation instills the value of military service and deference to governmental leaders onto their children. But of course, the baby boomers brought us hippies, and the music was sort of the outcrop of protesting against the government, the Vietnam War. Really the first time our government was challenged by enough people that, what you're doing is wrong. And it's the baby boomers that brought us that. And then, the civil rights movement, but also all the protests of the late 60s, early 70s, very interesting that, the baby boomers, a lot of them rebelled against the very lesson, the number one lesson that they inherited from their own parents. I mean, that's always been interesting to me. And that altered the course of the country.
It's so fascinating to me because again, I'm just here speaking one example, but I just said straight laced, military, respect for it, everything. And now you have a guy in that time again looking at these hippies, the counterculture, like, I am no fucking way. The only difference of division then and now, and we always go back to it, is the access, the social media. Back then it was just kind of everybody was kind of like near that middle and you had your different things, but you didn't read about it every day. It wasn't constant. You saw it and it was in the news and in the papers, but the counterculture existed and it went on and it was sort of thing, but it didn't seem like the same type of hatred and the same type of like opposite ends. But they're still the first ones that brought it. I mean, and maybe I didn't.
I can argue the other way because I mean there was violence, there was assassinations.
4 dead in Ohio, presidents. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Kennedy's brother, Martin Luther King. And
that's
now
true. So if anything, it's almost like more volatile.
It's more volatile, but more like, I don't know. It's not, is it real? I mean, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter getting pissed off. Is that the same as marching through Kent State and having someone shoot at you? Right. I mean, I don't know. Now we have had violence. We've had the Capitol riots and certainly the social justice protests and whatnot. So it's not been violence free, but it doesn't seem like, back then I just felt like, I mean, people were literally getting assassinated every few years. It's crazy. So you can talk about the boomers forever, their influence and the different, the twists and turns of their culture. And they're still here. Like I said, I mean, we might have to think about alternatives.
You might have to think of a different type of thing here.
Exactly. So,
go ahead.
Talk about straight legs. There's a couple of things I want to explore because I think your dad's like this. First of all, my dad has become a serial, I would say, hoarder and not in a bad way like you see on TV, but he just saves the most interesting, peculiar things. I go to his house and I'm in the basement and I'm looking for something, usually something related to alcoholic beverages. I'm looking for a wine stopper or a bottle opener. I open a drawer. He has a drawer of at least 30 electrical extension cords. There's extension cords like with metal boxes on the end, like that's painted with lead paint. I'm like, this extension cord violates at least 75 federal statutes right now. And they're wrapped. Like the double wrap, one wrap here, and then tie it off. Yeah. And there's 30 of them stacked. I'm like, Dad, what are we gonna do with 30 extension cords? Like, you can buy them for $4.
Yeah, just go get one. And they're like construction grade, and they're much better than that one you're sitting there.
Those things you could run those off of a nuclear power plant or something, those things. And you've seen the bobbleheads and the baseball cards and all that stuff. Yeah. Also, you're talking about how particular and anal retentive they are, and they're precise, right? So we're season ticket holders of the Bengals, 25 years, huge Bengals fans. But the one thing the most irritating thing at a football game for my dad is a delay a game penalty. Even if it's on the opponent, he gets pissed off. Ben Roethlisberger runs out the play clock. What is he doing? The play clock hit 0. I'm like, Dad, it's a penalty on the Steelers. It's good for the Bengals. What's he looking at? You can't get the playoff in time? I mean, it's like yelling at delay a game penalties drive him insane, both sides. It's so funny.
I love the hoarding piece and the stuff that they pick. I mean, the stuff I go into my dad's workshop, and there's a wall he has built, and I don't like the baby food jars, little glass baby food jars. He has no less than 400 of them, and every one of them has different size screws and nuts and bolts and these things. And I just want to be like, anytime that you need one of those, like they're 16 cents at the local hardware store. You just find, I know
I throw them out. I can't stand them.
Just go get the one that you need. He shows up to my house to fix something. He's like, I got my plumbing box, my electrical box. Oh, another great transition, but I did want to bring up something else. How about the baby boomers? The long list of skill sets that they have compared to our generation. My dad's a dentist. Yeah. Okay. My dad can come down, and if this ceiling was open, he could wire the entire place, outlets, lights, whatever you want. He can also go into my car and like open up the engine and tell me yada, yada, yada. He's not a mechanic. He's never worked as a mechanic. He's a dentist. It's like, what in the hell? Rabid anti-dentite. How do you know how to do all these things? The other day, my garage door broke. I'm getting ready to leave. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I snow blowed all the driveway, got all the snow out of here. Garage door was shutting. As soon as it would touch the ground, it would go back up. I shut it, touch the ground, go back up. So it wasn't like something was in the way of the laser. I just kicked it a couple, so that wasn't it. So at that point, I'm out of options of what I know what's going on, because it's making it all the way down. I just pull the cord, manually shut it, throw a screwdriver in a lock it, and I leave for the weekend, like whatever. I'm talking to my dad. He goes, is it going all the way to the ground? I said, yeah. He goes, there's this little screw up on top that came out of adjustment. You just need to adjust it. Because right now it's sensing that something's in the way, even though it's just touching the ground. I'm like, I don't understand how you know that to teach. I just don't understand. They know how to do so many things because they were forced to.
There's your dad. I would be amazed for you to come and tell me that your dad didn't know how to do something or know something. Like, has there ever been a question you asked him? He said, I have no clue.
No, that's why my wife calls him Google.
The tennis ball. Oh, they were in the garage. That's the best.
It doesn't matter what subject.
The concave mirror. What about the concave mirror?
Historical stuff I'm talking about. I mean, it's just.
Oh, well, that was why I was trying to make that point earlier and skip. That's when I was like rambling. Yeah, they love history. My dad, and the reason I think I really liked history, he's a huge Civil War guy. And of course, back in the old days, before you had a computer, you had encyclopedias, or you had the 32 book Civil War collection
in his living room.
Oh yeah, the 32 book series on the Civil War. Book 1. Yeah, he would read those things and memorize them and just read them again. I mean, because they didn't have any other entertainment. He knows the Civil War like the back of his hand, and can tell you anything about that. And of course, loves Abe Lincoln. but yeah, they just love that the history that they retain,
and not just retaining, not just the history from their lives. Like I'm good at history from like 1992 on,
Yeah.
because I was there. But before that, not good. I didn't retain any of it. It's just our generation's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't know. I passed the test in history in junior year. I'm out of it now. That's it.
Yeah.
And they had much more respect for that and want to learn about it. But one of the things we just said, this is to against what I was saying, how they know everything. There's one thing that we all share: the baby boomers are just the most useless, frustrating, and it's the internet and technology.
Oh God, it's the worst.
Now think about it. And when did the internet really hit? 93, 94-ish, 95-ish. They are hardened 45-year-old men, which, by the way, a 45-year-old man from the baby boomers compared to 45-year-old men now is at least a good 15 years apart. 45-year-old baby boomer had 3 kids. His house was close to being paid off because he bought it at 20. He moved out of his parents' house. He had a job. He had his retirement going. A 44-year-old, our generation, whatever the hell you want to call it, it might still be getting some like birthday money from them, and like just moved out of the house 5 years ago or 6 years ago, or still depending on they're helping them make their car payments. I mean, so 45-year-olds completely different, but we grew up with it. So no matter what our kids face, although we've got to keep up with it. You know, bam, TikTok's released, and oh, what's this new thing? What's what's that? God. Okay, but at least we have inclination of kind of, all right, here's what you do with it, and here's what it is, and understand the World Wide Web and different things. They're still completely clueless about it. And it's one thing that I do have over my dad is I go there and help him with his technology. I set up his TVs, and you know, he's just like blown away. He gets so frustrated. I can't do it. You know, I'm talking to him like, hey, you know, I just sent you a text, you know, check it out because I want to show you this. And I can see it, and then I just hear buttons. Oh, he's yelling at the phone from here. Hold on. I can't figure out how do you do this goddamn thing? How do I put it on speaker and look at a text at the same time? Like, that is next level. So we do have the technology piece.
Did you just say World Wide Web? Like,
well, that's
beautiful.
Yeah.
No one has said the word. No one has said World Wide Web in at least 10 years. Like,
it's so great to say the World Wide Web.
www dot
http//
I
don't want to go to my bank and type in pnc.com. I'm going to www.pnc.com. Why not type it in?
So the text messaging, though, really, they collectively, you said there's 77 million. Well, there needs to be 77 million LinkedIn learning courses given on text message, text message grammar or best practices.
It's more best practices.
They equate a text to a phone call. Like, now, when I was in college, I talked to my parents once a week because we had it was expensive to call long distance. We had a calling card. And so you did the weekly wrap on a Sunday or something about everything that went on. And then, okay, that's it. Well, then there was email. So then you could send email things, but the texting.
The hell is email?
Yeah. Well, then the texting, like, hey, John, what are you up to today? And if you don't respond immediately, they get offended. Like, you just ignored me. Well, a text message is, I get 100 a day. It's not like a phone call.
Right.
I mean, I'll get back to you. Can we just I'd like to get back to every 3 or 4 days, a week, that we're communicating and giving sort of the weekly routine wrap up of the week. The text messaging goes on and on and on.
I just keep seeing this pattern here. Less communication, want to get rid of them. I mean, I thank God neither of your parents know how to listen to this podcast, because only thing they're going to gain from it is John doesn't want to hear from us more than once a week, and he wants us to get rid off the face of the earth very soon.
They're still helping me out, and the positives far outweigh the sort of the trade-offs, I'll call them, not negatives. But I mean, I can't respond to every text. Like, you send 20 a day, I can't get back to them in 45 seconds. It's just not proper etiquette.
Just the technology piece in general, the impatience for technology. And I think it just comes from the stuff we said. Everything before technology was, it was clear cut. There was it's a machine, it's a gadget, a widget.
Yep.
It makes sense. They do it. And
they can see it. They
once
can
the
see
internet,
it
right. Once the internet,
and
to put all this stuff together. I mean, I just outfitted my dad's entire house with YouTube TV. Now, my dad lives in Youngstown, Ohio. They get one cable provider, and that cable that's their only choice. That cable provider does not have Big Ten network. So when my dad, as a humongous Buckeye fan and wants coverage on the Big Ten football and Big Ten basketball and the Buckeyes specifically, but also everybody else, when he comes to my house, I come downstairs and he's just sitting there, and it's Nebraska versus Northwestern women's field hockey, but it's on Big Ten, and he's watching it because he can watch Big Ten. So I'm telling him for so long, like, hey, you got to just do YouTube TV. I can set it. He's like, oh, no, then I have this. Oh, well, now I got to get internet, and I got to get Roku because this TV's not smart. What is my TV smart? All this stuff, whatever. I outfitted him with the whole thing. He sat in his lazy boy, and he goes like this, and he's sitting there, and I showed him everything. And now this is after we had all TVs set up, and I'm showing, I said, now this is your guide, and you can put, look, you're in Big Ten network. I said, now you just go to this one. I said, that's it. I said, you're going to pay $65 a month. He sat back and he goes, I can't understand why anyone would have cable. Like I said, Dad, you still actually have cable. All we did was disconnect your boxes. Like he thought he was laughing at himself that he was so advanced. I'm like, you have no idea what I just did or what happened. Yeah. And now you're like already turning to other people. Like, I can't believe people still have cable. Like this epiphany as he sat in the chair, clueless how anything that works, the cameras, don't even get me started on those.
Well, yeah, my parents are actually great. They love the smart stuff because they can go back and binge watch shows. My dad loved MASH. He loved, they loved.
He's called me all the time now. He's like, oh, this Roku, there's TV land, or I get TV land now. I'm watching Jackie Gleason. I'm watching Andy Griffith. It's like, oh, hey, also it's from their time. That's us in 50 years watching Seinfeld.
I'm worried about, you brought up a great point. Like at 45 years, you're sort of just done. And like, can you imagine like what the tech's going to be in 20 years? Cause I'm pretty much done. Like I just can't, I'm not going anymore. I'm not going to learn anything else.
It's weird. I just mentioned a Seinfeld reference, but it's like Jerry says, if when your wardrobe, with the last time you were cool and you're like, all right, I'm done. You stop giving up on, you're done with fashion. I don't give a shit to keep up and keep the trend going. That's how it is with technology. Like I've come this far.
Yeah, it's tough.
I've got another 15 years left in this workforce. You know what? I'm done.
So what are our kids going to say about us? I mean, are we going to, what's our impact?
That's the problem.
The great thing about the baby boomers have self-identity. They know who they are. They're confident in their impact. And what are we? We're not men, Jerry.
No, we're not. That's what I mean. They're the last, I said it early in the podcast, they're the last generation that has a clear-cut identity that changed or was a big part of society change in the world and our country specifically with all the things that happened. We touched on it, music and the counterculture and the invention of the internet and the roads. I mean, what happens now?
Yeah, we take the roads for granted. Yeah,
we take the roads for granted. I mean, if
you try to do that now, people would complain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't build. You try to put a new road in, people protest, and back then it's like, hey, we're building an entire interstate system, and we don't give a flying fuck where it is, whose backyard it is. This is what's going on. I mean, I just loved how they just
interstate through his front yard, baby.
Yeah, interstate. Yeah, nowadays, you can't even put a stop sign in without having a 6-week protest on Facebook about it. So the baby boomers. Let me set the record straight. My dad's my best friend. My mom loves me more than anything. They will do anything. They've done everything. And I don't want to see them. I want them here as long as they want to stay. But by golly, my tax bill, I'm tired of it. I really am. So
yeah, well, I say I want everyone. By the way, what generation are we? X?
Well, don't say we, because I am a different. I'm a better generation. I'm closer.
No, you're not.
I think it's a significant difference. Though. It's like you're in the 80s. You were born in the 80s. I was born in 77. When were you born?
79.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I thought you were like 80, 81. We're the same age.
We're the same people. The same.
My brother and I are the same age. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Matt Kirtley. For another 2 weeks, we're both 44. But I think we're Gen X. By the way, are you old enough to remember when we actually through Channel 1 got to name our generation? Anderson Cooper, still with us. And we got to name our generation. I believe we ended up on high tech generation, which didn't last. But Gen X, yeah, I like Gen X actually. I think it's a generation. I think it's definable. Gen X,
Giant TV wheeled into the classroom on a thing that weighed 4. If it tipped over, half the class was dead. Wheel it in the room and turn on channel 1 to see Anderson Cooper. There was no flat screens up on the walls, so to speak.
He kept reporting from Bosnia. I was like, who is this guy? He's
I
like
know, it was
15.
Yeah.
I actually like that guy. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I love Anderson Cooper. Big fan.
Well, here's to the baby boomers. They are our link to the greatest generation that everyone acknowledges is
right.
Is there any generation that everyone acknowledges is the greatest other than the greatest generation? That's what I love about them. My grandfather served in World War II.
Ours, it stinks.
Oh, it's terrible. And the one in our kids' generation,
all we do is milk our parents for here's our identity. Milk our parents for as long as we can. This is not you with the kids, but we were the first shift really to start having kids later. Anyone who's
showering them with bullshit and money and
milk our parents and party 15 years of your life away. I mean, I didn't even have a plan. Most people didn't even have a plan by the time they were 32. When the baby boomers, by the time they're 32, they've been out of the house for over a decade. I mean, think about that.
I mean, I just worry about Super Bowl Sunday. Matthew Stafford runs the play clock down to 0. My dad's going to go crazy, even though it might clinch the Super Bowl for our favorite team, but he'll still be mad at Matthew Stafford for going to 0 on the play clock.
Yeah, see what I mean? This is our generation. It's just turn the clock to the next me thing. That's right. All it is. Nothing for our country.
Well,
all right, man. I think we
pour one out for the boomers. I love it.
All right, man. Some odes to our fathers and the baby boomer generation.
Yes, indeed. They're the greatest.
Let's start working on our generation, guys. There's still time left. All you 40 to 45 to 47-year-olds, come on. There's time.
We got at least another 50 years to go.
Yeah.
Hey, have a good one, brother. Talk to you Sunday.
See you, man.